Sabah, home to some of the country's finest beaches. Its capital, Kota Kinabalu, is a bustling boomtown. A thriving tourism industry is driving the local economy, which is also steadily growing. It comes as no surprise then that migrant workers flock to the island, a majority of whom are from the neighboring southern Philippines. But the history between Sabah and the Philippines is filled with controversy, and for many who come here for a better life, the journey is hardly ever smooth sailing.
Hello and welcome to Assignment Asia. I'm Barnaby reporting this week from Malaysia, one of the most ethnically and culturally diverse countries in Southeast Asia. The majority of the people here are Malay, but there's also a sizable Chinese and Indian population. Here in the eastern state of Sabah, though, nearly a third of the population is Filipino, many of whom are illegal migrants.
They speak Malay and they look Malay, but this market at the heart of Kota Kinabalu isn't called the Filipino market for nothing. It's literally where the city's Filipino population converges. A fraction of it, that is, because those living and working illegally barely see beyond the confines of their workplace.
Kung sa akin, pag mahirap talaga pag illegal ka kasi kahit bumili ng pagkain, parang nawawalaan ka ng ganyan talaga. Parang nawawalaan ka ng pera sa pasikot-sikot, hinahanap mo kung saan ka pupunta. Lalo na pag may makita ka pulis, nagtatago ka pa, yung bibilhin mo, hindi mo na mabili. Kasi natatakot ka na.
24-year-old Darwisa Mibahar, or Sam, has been going in and out of Sabah for the past 12 years, working in palm oil plantations and most recently in construction. It's a job not many women would take, but Sam says as an illegal migrant, she had very little choice.
Mahirap talaga maghanap ng trabaho. Bago kararating ko lang, 4 na buwan, hindi pa ako nakapagtrabaho. Sabi ng kaibigan ko, maghintay ka lang, malapit na tayo magkakatrabaho. Sabi ko, kailan ba? Kasi naiinip na ako dito sa bahay lang. Halos kumakain lang, kain tulog, walang dumarating na pera. Kahit pabili ng damit, wala.
Nearly all the workers here are from the Philippines, and like Sam, most are undocumented. While filming, we saw at least a couple of underage workers. And Sam definitely wasn't the only woman.
Mabigat nga, sobrang bigat. Pero kapag may asawa ka na, may anak ka na, hindi ba kailangan mo may pera ka? Pamuha yung mga anak namin yon. Tapos, kahit nga mabigat, sisipagin namin din, susubukan namin.
25-year-old Sarah Lynn is Sam's best friend. She moved to Sabah with her family when she was just 7. Sarah considers it her second home. And yet, she and her 4 children remain undocumented and uneducated.
Hindi siya pwedeng mag-aral dito. Sabi niya mga immigration at saka police, sabi niya, kapag gusto mo, sabi niya sa akin, umuwi ka na lang sa Pinas, sabi niya sa akin. Doon na pa-aral mo yung mga anak mo. Kapag dito hindi yan, sabi niya, hindi yan matanggap namin. Sabi niya kasi walang IC.
Sarah's daughter is sick. They tell her it looks like symptoms of polio. But with no access to free healthcare and unable to afford private healthcare, she can't get a doctor to give an official diagnosis and get the proper treatment. Sam and Sarah represent the two faces of the Filipino diaspora in Sabah. One who comes purely for employment, and the other to stay and build a new life. And as more and more illegal migrants settle in Sabah, more and more children here are growing up with little or no social and government support.
I don't understand the rationale of the policy. I do believe that they should be given opportunity to, especially children, they should be given opportunity to really develop their potential, their maximum potential. Because it's a life. You only live once, whether legal or illegal, they are here. It is better for them to have some form of skill and education rather than leave them and they turn out to be criminals, you see, and no good for everybody.
Simon Sipaon is a former state secretary of Sabah and a human rights advocate. He believes illegal migrants aren't the only ones to blame for the problem. Authorities, he says, should also be held responsible.
And the last thing I think on their mind, as far as I can see, is to break the Malaysian law. You know, they just want to have a decent life, can able to feed their families and things like that. But the question that genuine Sabahan asked is, why are these people allowed to come in and out and move around with impunity?
That question came into the spotlight in 2013 when a group of armed men and women from the southern Philippines took over a village in Lahad, Datu and engaged in a month-long standoff with Malaysian forces. They claimed to be followers of Jamalul Kiram III, a self-proclaimed heir to the sultans who once ruled the kingdom that included Sabah. Now they say they want their land back. There was considerable bloodshed. Dozens of people were killed in the fighting. And while the situation appears to be stable now, documented Filipinos here in Sabah fear they might suffer much of the backlash. In the months following the siege, a crisis committee organized by the Philippine government estimated that more than 7,000 Filipinos fled Sabah. And now, both Sam and Sarah are seriously considering a journey back to the southern Philippines.
Talagang gusto ko pumunta dito kasi gusto ko yung kunin yung kapatid ko dito. Sabi nila gusto nila umuwi. Kung may trabaho ka dito at saka may IC ka at passport, okay dito. Pero pag wala, mas okay doon sa Pilipinas. Kasi doon, kahit wala kang passport, nakakakain ka. Kahit wala kang pera, pwede kang kumain ng saging o kaya iba-iba na yung makukuha mo.
But it's taken more than a year of hard work. Saving up has been a huge struggle for Sam.
Patingin magkano sa dito.
154.
And then just moments later, a man comes asking Sam for payment for her loans. Sam says this is how every month ends for her. What little she has left goes to their food and to that golden ticket home. But with sheer determination, Sam has been able to save enough to take her brothers, who practically grew up in Sabah, back to the Philippines. But Sam will have to leave Sarah behind.
Naisip din, gusto ko nga kung gusto niya sumama na sa akin, kung may pera lang ako, sabi ko sa kanya na para hindi
Sabi
na
niya sa akin,
tayo,
libre kita kapag may pera ako.
pwede na magsabay na lang tayo, pauwi. Sabi niya, mahirap kasi may anak ako.
Harder, but not impossible. Sarah isn't giving up hope. And Sam says she looks forward to seeing Sarah again back home. After more than a year of hard work and sacrifice, Sam and her brothers are finally heading home to Sulu, their hometown in the southern Philippines. And as Sam and Sarah bade each other farewell, it's clear that their friendship will not end here.
So Sam and her brothers are finally about to leave Kota Kinabalu. They've been waiting for this moment for a very long time. Their next stop right now is Sandakan, which is about 6 or 7 hours drive from Kota Kinabalu. But they're saying that these 6-7 hours are going to be very unpredictable precisely because they are illegal migrants. There is still very much that fear that they're going to get arrested. But they're saying that they're willing to take this risk because they've decided that they want to go back home to southern Philippines.
Bakit importante na maiuwi mo pati itong mga kapatid mo? Kasi pwedeng ikaw lang naman ang umuwi. Pero bakit importante sa'yo na pati sila maiuwi?
Kasi ang importante sa akin para makauwi sila, kahit hindi sila nakapag-aral ng grade 1, kahit sa adult lang basta makapag-aral sila, yung maisulat nila yung pangalan nila, makasulat lang man o makabasa.
Meron ka bang kahit ano pa ngayon? Parang konting kaba o kaya konting takot na nararamdaman?
Na siguro, kasi wala kaming pauwi lang kami, wala naman kami pera madadala na marami na sa pulis. Baka matsempuan pa kami sa daan na. Hindi namin alam kung paano namin ibibigay yung pera namin, kung kulang ba o sobra yung pera namin, kung magkano bang kailangan nila.
During and shortly after the Lahad Datu siege, there was heightened security all throughout Sabah. It wasn't too much of a stretch to think that this vehicle could be stopped and scrutinized at one of the checkpoints. But it didn't, and by sundown, we arrived at Sandakan. The journey of Sam and her brothers, though, is far from over, and we're about to go with them all the way home.
For Sam and her brothers, the journey back to the southern Philippines is a risk they feel they have no choice but to take. Their only chance to rebuild their lives, even though the journey alone could cost them just that.
It took 9 hours to reach Sandakan, but that was only the first leg of our journey. From the fish port, we'll need to take a small motorboat to get to what is known in the southern Philippines as lancha, a small to mid-sized cargo boat. This vessel will take us all the way to Holo, some 200 nautical miles away. All this for $50 a person, about as much as Sam earned in a month as a construction worker. This was the only option for illegal migrants wanting to travel back to the southern Philippines then. Most of them took more passengers than they can safely carry. It's a risk many were willing to take as authorities cracked down on those involved in the invasion of Lahad Datu.
I think for the sake of Sabah, it's a good development. Because a lot of Sabahan, not that they are not welcoming these people, but they like to see these people going back, deported to their country of origin, and if they want to come back, please come back through the proper channel, a proper document.
As night falls, the ship slowly moves away from Sandakan. Its captain having decided it's safe enough to not be spotted by the Malaysian Coast Guard. Most of the women and children settle on the top deck. Sam and her brothers are left with the platform directly above the hull.
So we've been sailing for about an hour now, and we were told that we're just about to cross the border between Malaysia and the Philippines. That's how close Sabah is to southern Philippines, although there's still a long way to go before we reach our final destination, which is Holo in Sulu province. Now, this is more or less the same route that Sam took going to Sabah, and it's more or less the same route that many other Filipinos have taken going to Sabah.
9 hours later, it's daylight, and there's nothing but the vast blue sea on the horizon. Holo feels so near, yet so far. especially for Sam. But nothing is too difficult for her now. She says she's been through worse.
Medyo mahirap. Pag malakas pa yung alon, minsan muntik na kami malunod. Kasi gumaganyan-ganyan yung yung bangka. Nagtatago kami sa loob ng bangka. Pero hindi naman lahat kami nagtatago. Yung iba nasa labas, yung iba naman pag masyadong marami na, tinatago na yung may-ari. Yung ganito lang, tinatabunan kami ng ganito. Para isipin nila na bagahe lang kami, hindi tao.
Not that Sam has always gotten away. 9 years ago, when she was 15, she was arrested and jailed in Malaysia.
Oo, kahit ngayong kapatid ko yan, bata pa yan. Ganun pa siguro kaliit.
Nakulong?
Oo. Yung bunso namin, hindi pa nga makalakad.
Nakulong?
Oo. 5 kami nakulong na anak ng nanay ko. 5 kami magkakapatid sa loob ng kulong. Medyo mahirap kasi pag walang dumadalaw sa'yo. Kasi mahirap yung yung pagkain konti lang, ganun lang. Lihit yung, hindi ka ba magugusob yung pagkain?
And it wasn't just Sam. On the boat, we met Noy and Taiba Ajaray, a couple who also lived and worked illegally in Kota Kinabalu. Like Sam, Noy had been going in and out of Sabah for years and had also been jailed by Malaysian authorities.
Nahuli ako 1998, yung binugbog kami. Marami kaming binugbog, mga 20. Binugbog kami lahat ng pulis.
Araw-araw?
Araw-araw ganun.
Ano ka tagal?
Mga 2 linggo, bugbog sarado kami.
Both Sam and Noy are aware that what they were doing was illegal and that they'd be jailed if they were caught. And yet, they kept pushing their luck.
Yun na nga, kasi wala kasing walang trabaho namin at saka naghahanap ng pera. Kahit nga nakakulong na ganun nakakulong, sabi ng tatay ko na kung gusto niyong humanap ng pera, di humanap kayo. Kahit nga hindi kayo humanap, nakakakain din kayo dito. Pero sabi ko, oo naman nakakakain, pero iba naman yung may pera tayo o kaysa sa wala. Kaya pumunta dito.
Now, both Sam and Noy swear they're never going back to Sabah. This trip between Sabah and the southern Philippines, they say, is their last. The sun sets yet again. By now, we've been sailing for almost 24 hours. Already a few hours over the estimated travel time. Still, Holo is nowhere in sight. Despite the long journey, Sam isn't complaining. Patience was a small price to pay for being able to finally come home.
Papunta na sa Holo.
Wala na kayong problema kung nakarating kayo ng
Wala na talaga. Hindi na ako magpo-problema pa kung ano pa yun. Basta ang importante makarating na. Pag doon na kami sa amin, kahit walang trabaho, medyo magaan naman yung pakiramdam. Hindi naman tulad ng doon sa Malaysia.
And then the ship's crew turns all the lights off to avoid being spotted this time by Philippine authorities. But from a distance, lights were glowing. After sailing for 2 nights and a day, it appears we were finally approaching Sam's hometown, Holo. Holo, center for trade and commerce, home to thousands of Filipino Muslims, capital of the island of Sulu. Sulu is one of the most resource-rich provinces in the Philippines, but it's also one of the poorest. 4-decade Muslim insurgency has largely hampered economic growth. Sulu has also gained a reputation as the stronghold of the Al-Qaeda-linked Abu Sayyaf group. The Abu Sayyaf is blamed for some of the deadliest terrorist attacks in the Philippines and for some of the most high-profile kidnapping cases. It's the absence of peace and order and the crushing poverty that drove so many like Sam away from the island. But Sam says she's not that worried.
May gulo din sa Hulo, pero yung sa lugar namin walang gulo. Medyo diyan lang sa malapit sa sa Hulo talaga yung Patikul. Diyan lang yung meron Abu Sayyaf. Minsan kami nga natatakot din. Hindi kami madalas pumunta doon. Doon lang kami sa lugar namin.
So the journey goes on for Sam and her brothers. From downtown Holo, it's another 4 hours. And as we inch closer and closer, the poverty they're about to come home to becomes more and more apparent.
Plano mo para sa future? Anong gagawin mo dun sa Sulu? Paano kayo mabubuhay, kumbaga?
Pag-iisipan na lang kung kang makapag-abroad ulit, mag-abroad. Kung hindi, siguro magtrabaho na lang sa probinsya. Maggawa ng buko. Yun na lang.
Sa Sulu?
Oo.
Okay na yun sa'yo?
Okay na, basta mabuhay lang maayos. Hindi nahihirapan, okay na.
There could be enough to get by, with the sea and the trees and small plantations. But there's little, if any, social and economic development here. For Sam and her brothers, though, there's family. And after traveling for a total of 75 hours, they're finally home. Their father isn't there to greet them. It's not long before he arrives. It's the first time in more than 10 years that he's seen 2 of his sons. This should be a defining moment for the family, but there is a rift that Sam says she hasn't been able to fix.
Gusto kong mabuo ulit sila. Yun lang gusto ko. Pero yung nanay ayaw talaga. Yung tatay ko gusto niya makipagbalikan sa nanay ko. Pero yung gusto naman ng nanay ko makipag-iwalay sa yung asawa, hiwalayan yung tatay ko yung asawa niya. Yung huli. Pero hindi naman ako pwedeng magsabi sa sa tatay ko, hiwalayan mo na yan. Kasi yung bata pa kami, yun din ang nag-aalaga sa amin. Yung nasa Sabah nasa Malaysia si nanay ko.
Ilan taon na ba sila nagkita pati tatay? Ilan taon na kamusta mo nagkita?
It's a story that's become all too familiar to families like Sam's. A price they've had to pay for a chance to provide a better life for their loved ones.
The saying goes that home is where the heart is. It's true even for Sam and her brothers, but being back in Sulu has its own uncertainties. Terrorism, insurgency, poverty. These are problems here that have remained unsolved for generations. And there are few signs right now, if any, that things are going to change for the better anytime soon. Still, being back with their family and away from fear of getting arrested in Sabah gives Sam and her brothers hope that they can restart their lives. That's all for this edition of Assignment Asia. I'm Barnaby in Holo, Southern Philippines. Thanks for watching and join us again soon.